Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharei, Malachei Elyon. Imelech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Imelech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Imelech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedkem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Imelech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ozarua Atzadik Uyishrei lev simcha. Ozarua Atzadik Uyishrei lev simcha. Ozarua Atzadik Uyishrei lev simcha. Uyishrei lev simcha. Ozarua Atzadik Uyishrei lev simcha. Uyishrei lev simcha. Ozarua Atzadik Uyishrei lev simcha. Ozarua Atzadik Uyishrei lev simcha. Lai 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 lai
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to those of you joining us here in the sanctuary, and welcome to everyone who is joining us online this evening. It is one of those evenings where the weather's kind of weird, so it might be nice to be at home on your couch and not with this weird weather pattern, but welcome, St. Louis. If you are home, this is a great time to grab your candles and a glass of wine as we join together welcoming in Shabbat. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light, as we welcome in the light and the warmth and the joy of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And now on page 123 in your prayer books, and those of you at home in the Mishkan Tefillah, if you would like to stand, we are raising ourselves to a higher plane of holiness when we stand, and also standing in testimony to our commitment not just to Shabbat, but to God and to our heritage. So we raise our cups and we sing together the Kedushat Hayom, the sanctification of the day, the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho be'ahav ratzon hinechilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techiro mikroe kodesh, zecher letziot mitzrayim, kivanu v'chorta ve'otanu Dashta Nikolami V'Shabbat Kodshecha Be'ava U'V'Ratzon Hinechaltanu Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. And we say together L'chaim and a Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Please be seated.
So this week, all over social media, I have seen an article being passed around that's published by the online Jewish magazine Kveler entitled, "Our Jewish Kids Shouldn't Have to Lie About Santa." It basically states that young Jews are put in the precarious situation each year of having to be careful not to spill the beans about Santa, and that Jewish parents are filled with anxiety during this time about their kid being the one to speak up, or their kid being treated differently because they don't believe nor celebrate Christmas. Notice I did not actually lie nor give it away in those words, just in case someone is watching who believes. Yes, this time of year can be lonely. It especially feels so when Hanukkah happens so early. I mean, we were done by December 7th, and there is still an entire month of holidays that aren't ours to go. I understand the loneliness, and yes, this is that time of year when you can feel othered, like you don't quite fit in with the larger world around you. And yet, I can't help but think these are not new feelings for Jews. The Hasmoneans, descendants of the Maccabees, were the last to be in power over an independent Jewish state. And this means that for thousands of years, even before the start of the Common Era, Jews lived under the rule of someone else, often in the minority, even in the land of Israel. And only with the establishment of the State of Israel have modern-day Jews known and experienced true Jewish autonomy. Jews have lived as a minority in almost every land in our world, and dealing with the same issues that we deal with today. How do we integrate ourselves while maintaining our own traditions, which might mean living differently in the midst of the larger culture that surrounds us? So the struggle with Christmas isn't a new one. As our brothers and sisters who've lived in Muslim lands likely struggled with Eids. And I've even read recently about a young Jewish woman from Mexico who struggled and was so envious of the ofrendas, the altars that were everywhere during Dia de los Muertos when she was growing up. It isn't a new phenomenon, but it still doesn't mean the struggle isn't real. In this week's parashah, Vayigash, we learn that Jacob comes to Egypt with his children, and he reunites with his beloved Joseph. The brothers were told by Joseph before they went to get their father and bring him back that you will reside in the land of Goshen. We're then told that Jacob sent Judah ahead of Joseph, to prepare for them in Goshen. And when they arrive, Joseph instructs his brothers to reiterate to Pharaoh that they are shepherds, and Pharaoh reiterates that Goshen is the best part of the land for you to settle your father and your brothers. So where is Goshen? It is an area that if you look at the map, it's a little bit north of the capital. So if you're picturing modern-day Cairo, it's north. In what is known as, this is the thing, remember the Nile flows differently, in the lower part of the Nile Delta. All week, I have been wondering, why Goshen? Why are they settled in Goshen? Why not the capital city? Is this the first instance of Jews being separated from the larger surrounding culture? Was this deliberate? Did both Joseph and Pharaoh plan for this? Maybe. We're going to talk about this in Torah study tomorrow. I came across two interesting midrashim, really one that I want to share with you. At the beginning of the story of Abraham and Sarah in Parashat Lech Lecha, Abraham and Sarah go down to Egypt. Abraham tells Sarah to pretend that she is his sister. He's worried about what will happen if they realize that Sarah is his wife. The problem with lying is that Pharaoh takes notice of Sarah's beauty and is interested in her. And according to the Midrash, his affection for Sarah was so great that he wrote her a marriage contract, giving her wealth and possessions, as well as giving her the land of Goshen as an estate. Therefore, from this Midrash, we are told that Israel settled in the land of Goshen because it belonged to Sarah. It was her land. The Midrash also tells us that Pharaoh did all of this, writing the wedding contract for Sarah so that she would leave everything behind. She'd leave Abraham, and she would become his wife. The rabbis point to the Hebrew words, which they love to do. The word Goshen comes from the root to approach or to come near, which is gesh, the same root as the name of our parasha Vayigash. Pharaoh's intention was to have a closer connection with Sarah, which I guess he thought he could do by buying her with all of this lovely stuff in her wedding contract, but Sarah wasn't tempted. As we know, she stayed faithful to Abraham, and our story continues. Pharaoh's idea backfired, and instead, Goshen in our tradition later became a symbol of keeping separate from the surrounding non-Jewish culture. Goshen was isolated. The rabbis say that Joseph wanted to make sure that his family was kept away from the corrupting influence of the Egyptian idolatrous and immoral society. And of course, it was a terrific grazing land, and it gave them an opportunity to make a living as shepherds. It is also stated in the Midrash that Joseph feared that if they had settled on Egyptian property, then the Egyptians might one day claim that the Jews lived on land that did not belong to them and expel them. He therefore preferred the brothers to stay in Goshen, which, because of that marriage contract, belonged to Sarah. Living in Goshen allowed the Jews to live among themselves and to pursue their way of life while also contributing to Egyptian society. If we look back at our history, it is mixed with people separating us out, but it's also a little bit of us separating ourselves in an attempt to hold on to our own customs and traditions. Toward the end of this parashah, it states that Joseph gathered all the kesef from around Egypt. Kesef is so often translated as money. However, there is a Hasidic commentary that suggests that the kesef that Joseph gathered was not the money and the riches of the land, but rather sparks, which shone like silver, like kesef. Joseph gathered and accumulated the wisdom of Egypt and Canaan, meaning with his family nearby, now near him, Joseph not only renewed his connection to his faith, his family, and to God, he also realized what learning could be gathered from the traditions of the surrounding Egyptian culture. What does this spark have to do with Goshen? If you remember Goshen, Vayigash, from that root, Gesh, add to that now another word from that root, Gesher. Gesher, which means bridge. What does a bridge have to do with all of this? What does a bridge mean? Or what is a bridge? A bridge is something that you cross from one side or one place to the other. Thanks to a bridge, the people on the differing sides can communicate, can participate with one another, can be in partnership with one another, can learn from one another, all the while the two sides of the bridge can still maintain their separate identities. So perhaps what we learn from our ancestors settling in Goshen and why Goshen is that we Jews, especially today, living outside of the state of Israel, perhaps we are people of bridges, people that live between two worlds, that of being Jews, and for us, that of being Americans, but it could be German, Brit, Chinese, anywhere that Jews may live in our world. And our struggle, always, is to figure out how to learn from and contribute to the culture and society that is around us while being proud of and staying true to our history, our faith, and ourselves as Jews. Yes, sometimes it's absolutely lonely, but I think it's always worth it. Shabbat Shalom. And we continue now on page 138 as we join together welcoming in the Shabbat bride with Lecha Dodi.
B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Levando Kili Kakala Shabbat Nekabela Shamor Besachon Elibur Echad Ishmichanu Elam Yuchad Adonai Echad Shemo Echad Tiferet U'elitila Nilchanu Nilchakana Lai 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Levando Nilchakana Lai 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lekat Shabbat Tevutenelcha Imekor Averacha Berosh Mekedem Netzucha Sof Maaseh B'machshava Tehila Lechanu Nilchakala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lechanu Nilchakala B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Boi v'shalom Aderet ba'ala Kam besimcha u'etzola Tok emunei am sekula Boi chala Boi chala Lechando Nili Kakala Yaradai Yaradai Dai Dai B'nei Shabbat Nekabela Lechando Nili Kakala Yaradai 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 B'nei Shabbat Nekabela.
And we remain standing and continue on page 146 with the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed.
And we continue reading together at the top of page 148 in the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtsono, bore yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tsevaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. And at the top of page 151, we read together in the English. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And on page 152.
As we stand to the mystery of our own futures, let's pause for a moment, and quieting ourselves, and think about that mystery for just a moment, and how we, as they say in Latin, omnia exeum mysterium, all things do pass into mystery. And we do so quietly during this Shema. And as we shine the light of the Spirit of God into our hearts, we react. And we sing together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. On the top of page 154, we chant together the V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם כראשים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים Ani Adonai Elohechem.
And at the top of page 157, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching, and crossing bridges together. We join together on page 158 with Mi Chamocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטר בקודש, נורא להילו. עושי פלא, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטר בקודש, נורא נגילו. עושי פלא מלכותך, ראו פניך, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, Se'eli anu ve'amu Adonai no olam va'ed Diga moga va'elim Adonai Diga moga netar ba'kodesh Diga moga va'elim Adonai Diga moga netar ba'kodesh Nora tehilo Say O sefer levene emakifata Adonai el Yaakov Aloni ad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael Nichamocha ba'edim Adonai Nichamocha netar ba'kodesh Nichamocha ba'edim Adonai Nichamocha netar ba'kodesh Nora Megilo Osei Feler Nichamocha ba'edim Adonai Nichamocha netar ba'kodesh Nichamocha ba'edim Adonai Nichamocha netar ba'kodesh.
And we continue on page 160 with Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chayim L'chayim Let there be love Guard us with peace Strength and compassion for all in need. Shield us from hate, illness, and war. Watch over us as we go forth. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chayim Fill us with hope, grace, and truth. May we all return to you. Keep us safe tonight. May we rise in a new light. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chayim L'chayim L'chayim
And we continue now on page 163 at the middle of the page.
A thought has blown the marketplace away. There's a song on the wind and a joy in the tree. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Adonai, Svatai tiftach, Ufi yad ki tehilo. tehilatecha. Adonai, Svatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. A thought has arrived in the world. There's a song on the wind and a joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world. Scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day. And eternity utters a day. Adonai, Svatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, Svatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Konei Hakol, Ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofech horim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidomeroch, Melech memit umechayeh, umatz mi'ach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata le'achayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Page 170. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated. And we turn to page 176 in our prayer book. And in our parashah this week, towards the beginning, when the brothers return to their dad and they tell Jacob that Joseph is alive, and they pack up and they get ready and they are on their way, Jacob stops. He stops along the way. You would think, here's a dad who just found out his son is alive. He hasn't seen him in so long and he's got to get there. But he stops. What does he stop for? A moment of gratitude. He stops to offer a sacrifice, to have a moment of connection, of gratitude with God. And it's a reminder for all of us that no matter what is going on in our lives, if we're rushing somewhere, if we are worried about something, if we are sad about something, we can always stop for that moment of gratitude and to give thanks to God. And we do so on page 176. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. And we turn now in our prayer books to page 376. And there we will first find a prayer for our country, followed on the next page with a prayer for the state of Israel. And we join together at the bottom of page 376. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen. And together at the bottom of the next page. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. And we turn back in our prayer books to page 371. As we turn our thoughts, we turn our hearts and our prayer toward prayers of healing, as we think of those in our community who are in need of healing. And if you are thinking of someone who is in need tonight of healing, whether you are here in the sanctuary or you are joining us from home, I'm going to ask you to rise at this moment and to call aloud the names of those that you are thinking of this evening in need of healing. We call them aloud. We take all of those names into our hearts, and may God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit as we join together now in singing Mishaberach.
Mishaberach avoteinu mekor haberacha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us sing Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor haberacha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
take a moment for silent and personal prayer.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol leit u'b'chol shah ishomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Good evening, everybody. Good Shabbos. I'm Barry Sharon, and I'm a member of the board. And before I get into the announcements, a couple of things happened tonight. One, I'm sitting next to a friend of mine by the name of Rick Halpern, and I'm on the wrong 158 page. And he pointed out to me that the correct 158 was inside the parentheses. And I realized I have been living outside the parentheses for a long time. and in the comments about our ability to learn as we live in different lands, I was thinking there was no room for somebody like me who's got a flat learning curve, so I'm gonna have to work on it. One other thought that has been in my mind, I had a little surgery on my face and it's a little taped up, and I was with my grandkids the other night and they're looking at it and they asked me about it, and the first thought that crossed my mind was a conversation between Lincoln and Douglas during their great debates, and Douglas accused Lincoln of being two-faced. And Lincoln's response was, if I was two-faced, do you think I would have chosen this one? So I'm kind of in the same spot. So some announcements, and one of them, which is not on the sheet here, has to do with olive oil. Thank you. So the olive oil, and I'm on a slippery slope when I talk about this. for your fast. The alleged ship date from Israel is the 15th of this month, which is great news. They seem to be on schedule. We'll be bringing them in by air freight, so hopefully by the 19th, all cases will be here, and we can start distribution. Thanks everybody who's participated in that program, and if all goes well, hopefully we can expand it next year. But at any rate, the long-awaited olive oil is on the way. For some announcements, Torah study begins at 9 o'clock tomorrow in the chapel or via Zoom. Shabbat morning services at 10:30 via live stream. And at 6, we usher out Shabbat with next week now via live stream. Please note that on Shabbat weekends of December 24th, 25th, and December 31, January 1, we will be solely virtual. This means that services will be live streamed and Torah study will be Zoom only. Why are those nights different than all? No. I keep getting these things confused. Flat learning curve, I'm telling you. United Hebrew's annual meeting and election of officers and board of trustees will be on Sunday, December 19th at 3 o'clock in the chapel and via Zoom. The 2021 Irene Fox United Hebrew Rosh Award will be presented to Barry and Cheryl Krell. UH will host 2 virtual town meetings via Zoom to answer questions regarding the partnership membership renewals that were sent out. They will be held on Wednesday, December 15th, and Tuesday, January 4th at 7 o'clock. And I hope all of us get a chance to hear them, listen to what is being discussed, and are moved by what we hear. For additional information about upcoming classes and programs, please visit the UH website. Thank you all for your attendance. Have a safe week.
And just a reminder that the gift shop is open on Sundays and by appointments. And this Sunday, a true Hanukkah miracle, a little bit afterwards, there is going to be a sale, a 20% off sale on the Hanukkah items on the tables out in Kaplansky Center. So if you would like to buy some Hanukkah stuff to prepare for next year, might be the time to buy candles, since this year's candles are still stuck on the ships from wherever they were coming, which is why it's good the olive oil is coming by freight, or by air freight, not ship. We continue now on page 586 with Aleinu, if you would all please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
continue on page 592. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. This Shabbat, the heartfelt condolences of our congregation go out to the family of Ray Grossman. We are in the period of Shloshim for Eleanor Ellie H. Barbach, Dr. Sean Lewis Birkin, Audrey Gershenson, Nina Grace Levine, Robert B. Rubin, Jerry Stoliar. This week, this Shabbat, we observe the yahrzeits and lovingly remember Gertrude M. Baker, Abraham Barron, Max Baskin, Elizabeth Bomsey, Cecilia Bray, Dorothy Catlin, Holly Nicole Chasin, Esther Cohen, Harry E. Cohn, Lena Kranis, Irvin Crown, Esther W. Davis, Hubert Diamond, Sylvia Eckert, Albert Epstein, Gary Fagan, Erwin Fox, Lillian Weissman Frank, Harry Doc Goffstein, Marion Goldblum, Charles Goldman, Eugene L. Grossberg, Ben Grossberg, Samuel F. Hacker, Louis D. Hafner, Seymour Halpern, Joseph Hartman, Siegfried Honey, Darrell E. Iskowich, Harold Jacobs, Arthur B. Joseph, Marilyn Katz, Morris B. Kessler, Nathan Kornblum, Nettie Laderman, Joseph Lazaroff, Abraham Leibovitz, Harry D. Miller, Martin Paul Milmond, Edward Morris, Arthur Papierner, Dr. Louis Plax, Jacob Reagan, George L. Sagan, Philip Schiffer, Mary Schwartz, Ben B. Sirks, Abe Siegel, Dora Silverman, Philip G. Silverstone, Adrian Ruth Sobelman, Samuel Spiegelman, Rebecca Stone Cohen, Marion Billy Thuner, Elaine Towerman, Jacob Weil, Hyman C. Weissman, Lee R. Wolf, Dorothy R. Yedlin, Morris H. Zolden, Isidore Zucker. Zichronam livracha, may each of their memories be for blessing, as we turn to page 598 and we rise for the recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Bialma divra chirute v'amlich malchute, B'chayechon uvyomechon, Uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe Shemei Rabba Mevorach Leolam Omei Omaya. Yit Barach V'yish Tabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Romam V'yit Naseh. V'yit Hadar V'yit Aleh V'yit Halal Shemei Dekudasha Barichu. Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata. Tushbechata V'nechamata. Damiram Be'alma V'imru Amen. Yehe Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Amen. And our tradition teaches, Kol Ha'olam Kulo Gesher Tsar Me'od, that the world is a very narrow bridge, and we are not supposed to let the crossing of that bridge overwhelm us. And so instead, as we think about bridges, as we think about that gesher, let it be a bridge that helps to bring people together. Let it be a bridge that helps to bring us toward peace as we join together in our closing song, Truly a Blessing of Peace.
Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Page 657 at the bottom of the page. Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salem aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu, Ojavo shalom aleinu. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.